So today we're here to talk about a rusty tin top tracker. Look at that. Okay, so we're not really here to talk about the rust on my tin top. We're here to talk about the rust that used to be on my tin top. Now, if you can see, I made these rock sliders. Not because I really take this thing four-wheeling that often, but because the rockers were so rotted out. So this video is not going to be a step-by-step on how to actually cut out and build these rock sliders, but I'm going to tell you how to do it. So just pay attention and I'm sure you'll be fine. It's not that actually complicated, but I'm sorry I didn't make an entire video step-by-step on how to do them at the time. I was more focused on trying to get them done. The whole job took maybe 4 hours total. So you will need to be able to weld. If you can't weld, I don't know, find somebody that can or learn how to weld. But other than that, it's not that hard of a job. So let's get into it. I'll show you what I did. So the first thing we'll talk about is materials. What do you actually need to build these? And I guess if you want a better look at these, that's it. They stick out from the body a little bit, but really only with the rear fender line there, and it's kind of hard to see because of the rust in the back, but really they're just kind of flush mounted in there. But the materials you need are some angle iron. I believe the angle iron that I used, which you can see here, because I didn't take that much time to try to smooth that gap out. I think it was 1 inch by 1 inch, or I mean any angle iron will really do, which I'll tell you about here in a minute. But the other thing you need is I use 2x3 rectangular tubing for this. I'm sure you could use 2x4. Only reason I use 2x3 is I got this off a friend who had it laying around, and it saved me the money from buying some tubing. And then the other thing you will need is plate to cap the ends off. So let's get into, I'll explain exactly step by step what you need to do. So the first thing you need to do is cut your old rockers out, and you can start by, if you still have the plastic covers on them, they're probably not that rotted, or you're lucky, but you need to get that plastic off there. You can either unscrew it or just rip it off. Then secondly, the way I did this, I'm sure you could cut it at any line you want, but somewhere in here, I'll put a video up right after this clip here of when I actually cut my rockers out, of where, you know, you can see where they were. You won't be able to tell the line, but you'll see on your rockers the body line that I'm talking about when I show you this next clip right now. So basically you just need to cut your rockers out like that, and then next thing I did was I took this angle iron and I made a piece from here the whole way to here, and I think you can kind of see up in here where that ended. Here's a little better shot, and then we'll start with that as a starter. So basically the reason for the angle iron is I don't like welding to tin, which your body I'm considering as tin. Welding something strong to tin, I should say. I just don't feel that it's a very strong way to do things. And I'm not that good at welding tin, so I don't want everyone and their brother to see how bad I am at welding tin. But anyway, I ground it smooth with a flap disc. You can see right in here, well, I guess you really can't see, but back here you can see a little bit of where the weld actually was. But I just laid the angle iron up against, there's another seam here, right below your door. I just put it up flush against there and then welded it. Actually, I think I left it down just a hair for there to be a spot to weld and then grind it and not have any door issues. But then after you get the centerpiece put in, then you just cut a piece back here to go from, you'll see where the angle of the body starts. So cut a piece that length and then run it to the back and then do the same thing up here on the front. And then the only problem I really ran into is because of how rotted mine actually was. You can see right here the little crack. I don't know what I'm actually going to do about that when I actually paint this up nice, but I guess if worst came to worst, I could just cut this out and then just re-notch this tube. But so you get your angle iron first. That's what I'm using as structure to hold this, so it has something solid you can actually put a good weld against. And I apologize for the rust on everything. I've had these on here for a few months now, and they were spray painted, but with the winter salt, you know, the paint didn't hold up very good. It was just a rattle can and no primer. So as soon as the weather decides what it wants to do here, I'm going to go ahead and redo this. I mean, I guess I could probably put some putty over this. It's not that soft, but I guess if I could go over and do it again, I would just have cut my fender arch out a little bit here and just made that better. But so the next thing you do is measure the length from this point of your wheel well where you ended your angle iron to the front here. And then you take your rectangular tubing, whether 2x3 or 2x4, whatever you want to use, and you cut your tubing to that. And then all I did was just put a 45-degree angle on the ends, and then I had to trim this plastic piece here. I mean, I could probably take that out of there, but yeah, oh, I just left it. So you trim that, and then I just took a plate and plated over the ends to box this tubing in, and then did the same here with the back. It just kind of gives it a better look. Now it does stick out back here past the body some, but I wanted to leave that there for strength on this. If you hit a rock or a stump or something, I don't want this caving up because of that. So now if you're wondering why there's holes in here, it just happened that this piece of tubing that I was given had holes drilled in it, and that's where it ended up lining up. So it is what it is. But basically, that's all there was to this. And then I just welded from the tubing to the angle iron, and then also I'll show you in the back here. Okay, so this side's actually not that bad with the gap, but I'll come over to the other side and show you what I mean. See the gap back there? I don't remember why I cut that out so big, or maybe I started on this side, I don't remember. But anyway, if I could do this again, or I guess what I'll add on in the future, I planned this from the beginning. I wanted to take steel plate and plate from this here up along the inner wheel well here, just for extra structure, and then also to cover this hole a little bit, and then do the same with the front. But now with your fenders, what I did, I'm sure there's multiple ways you could do this. You could leave your fender long instead of cutting it off like your rockers down below, which I don't know if you can see here, but the fender actually continues down to there. But what I did, I just cut the fender off down low, and then I put it, welded it to the angle iron. I figure if I ever need to change a fender, I can just cut it off and then grind the weld off, and then put the fender in and weld it back on the same way. But I don't foresee myself changing a fender on this. But the one thing you have to be cautious of is your door gap. Now this side turned out pretty perfect. It opens and closes perfectly, but the other side I had a slight issue with, and you can see it's a little bit tore up now. It was tight. You can see here where it was just hitting a little bit, even to the point where I didn't notice it at first. And until one day a big gust of wind came as I was getting out, and it ripped my door open. I guess just enough. I must not have opened it far enough to notice it, but it ended up bending this, and then for me bending it back, it ended up like that. So just be very cautious of that. But they're literally that simple to make. And then on the bottom, when you cut your rockers out, you can see my rockers were so rotted I really couldn't fold this metal around. But try to leave yourself, if you have a good enough rocker, leave yourself enough room to be able to fold these around, and then you can weld it underneath and seal all that off. And then also be cautious while you're doing this. There are wires that run inside your rockers here back to your tail lights and your fuel pump. I don't think there's too much else in that harness, but just watch that you don't cut in any of that while you're doing this. I knew they were there, so I was just cautious about it. And then also I just tucked them up in underneath whenever I installed these. You could probably run them inside underneath the floor or underneath the carpet, or if you don't have carpet on top of the floor. But you know, I just stuck them back up in there. I don't think there's going to be any issue with that, and I've been running it for a few months now and it's been fine. But they definitely work. They're pretty solid. So I've definitely hit some stuff with them, and to be honest, I really haven't noticed because these are there. But I know if my factory rockers were there solid or not, I mean, they were pretty rough, so they definitely would have caved, and then I would have been wishing I wouldn't have took it out that day. So I think they look pretty good, and they're definitely simple. So if your rockers are rotted out and you're wondering how to do it, even if you don't four-wheel it, I mean, it's not a bad idea. And really, I mean, if you weren't four-wheeling this thing, you could just smooth this over with a little bit of putty, and then like how I just painted it black on the bottom. It's probably going to end up, the whole bottom of this tractor is going to be black because I think it looks better, but you know, you could just paint match it afterwards. But it is what it is. I didn't want to put any putty on here in case, you know, this did get tweaked and break the putty off, but that's up to you. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much how I made my rock sliders here. It's not hard, and I think that you should really look at it. If you think it's something that you could benefit from, don't get overwhelmed by thinking it's something you can't do. I literally made all this with an angle grinder and just a regular MIG welder, so don't get overwhelmed by, you know, all the welding and the grinding. It's really not that bad. Just take your time, measure twice, cut once, and I think you'll be okay. And if you haven't seen my tracker since after the lift kit video, it has the 30-inch tires on it with some Krieger wheels. So this is somewhat of the stance you'll be expecting with 30-inch tires and a 2-inch lift. So if you haven't seen that video, go check it out on my channel. I'll leave it at the end of this video too. It's just how to install a budget GEO tracker 2-inch lift, and you can see with 30-inch tires you still have plenty of room. So now I try to keep some room though, because when you do get flex, they do get pretty close to the body line. And actually, I think right in here you can see I'm gonna have to do something about this paint that's coming off, but I have had them hit when fully flexed here. But on my other tracker, I think I cut a little notch right here, just in, I didn't, you know, go too far, but just enough. And I think I did one here, or maybe back here. Maybe I did 3. And I just took a hammer and tapped all this and folded this lip up, and that took care of the rubbing problems, because you can somewhat see here, you know, it's just hitting right on this edge. It's not actually hitting out here. So I'll probably be doing that to this one before I paint it, but that's what it'll look like. So I hope this video helps someone. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and if you like what you see, subscribe. I didn't expect my tracker lift kit video to get so much attention so quick, so you can expect some more tracker videos soon. I want to do a review on LED headlights. that I have in here in stock housings. So I see that's a question that gets brought up a lot. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you want to see it as soon as it comes out. I'm going to try to make that video here as soon as possible. Do a comparison with my other tracker that still has the original headlight bulbs versus these LEDs. So I'm going to end this video off with a little hill climb here for you. And like this video if it helps you, subscribe and comment, and look forward to some more content. Thanks for watching.